there are parts of New Jersey. My family,
Exactly.
my parents were both born in Philadelphia, but they are all, everybody moved to South Jersey, so.
Oh, yeah, I was in the northwestern part.
Okay, yeah, you're right, I probably not.
I have to, yeah.
So share the
Yes.
slides.
So that I do need to follow up on.
Good either way.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Whenever you're ready, yeah.
May already.
Yes.
All right, do we have time?
Right.
Oh, still have 1 minute.
She's got that Mr. Patel time. That second hand. Almost
This one's looking.
Well, according to this clock.
That's it.
Yep. All right.
All right, let's see, we don't get a gavel for this meeting.
No, we don't get a gavel.
You can use one. Use your
There we
knuckles.
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bang my water bottle.
That's good.
Thank you for reminding
Make
me.
it real formal.
Oh, boy.
Oh, there's a gavel.
Excellent. All right, hereby call the meeting of the Design Review Committee to order at 5:30. We'll have a quick determination of quorum. We have 2 new members.
Okay, so would you like to do brief introductions?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Ashley.
Sure. You want to start, Ray?
Right? We did a very casual introduction, but let's go ahead and say where you are.
So I'm Ray Cash, I'm Assistant Director of Community Development.
And I'm Jamie Sherry. I'm Director of Community Development. Community Development has a number of departments within it. We have a Customer Service Center where people come in, they apply for basically anything that we do. We have Planning and Zoning. We have Transportation, Building Inspections, and we also have an Environmental and Transportation Department. So we have basically from start to finish, from application to a certificate of occupancy in the department.
Ashley Parker. I'm the Design Review Committee Clerk. I'm also the Customer Service Center Manager.
Yeah.
I'm Callie Jackson with the County Attorney's Office, so we sit in most county board and commission meetings.
Thank you.
Andrew?
I'm Cornelius Dandridge, I was an alternate, now I'm maybe a chair, and local, Goochland, own Weed Whackers Landscape and Lawn Care, and been here pretty much my whole life. My family's from here. I moved away for a while, went to school, but my roots have been in Goochland. So glad to be a part.
Super. Well, I'm Josh Gillespie. I'm the sitting chair of this committee, and I am newer to Goochland than all my life. But as I was speaking with our new member patients here, we have a similar track. My parents-in-law followed the first grandkids here in the Chesterfield area, and then we followed them. So we've been in this area for about 7 years, and love the community. So we're in the eastern end of the county.
Okay.
The western part of the eastern end, for what it's worth.
Westie.
Also known as Oilville, right?
Also known as oil.
I'm Patience Armstrong. I'm the newest to the county, having moved here in September because my daughter moved down here for a job. And so I've been enjoying exploring Goochland County because it's much like the area where I lived in New Jersey, believe it or not. So, you know, my first experience driving through Short Pump to come down here when I was looking for a place to live, and like, I can't live here. It's just no way. So periodically, I just run away from it all and go out to one of the parks in Goochland County because it's good for my soul. And I'm glad to be on the committee.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So we have our agenda, and I would like to actually change the order of the agenda. I'd like to review bylaws first before we elect officers. So Director Sherry, was staff going to walk us through bylaws a little bit? Since we
I
have some
believe,
new members, or I'm sorry, the parliamentarian, I'm sorry.
No,
it's
that's
okay.
good. I'm going to have the county attorney go through. She's been our top reviewer.
We actually haven't proposed any changes for this year, so I wasn't planning to go through them, but since we have new members, it just basically recites what's in state code and county code combined, just for us to reference, like mostly we look at it when terms are expiring or things like that. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Anything in particular? They're pretty short bylaws.
I noted that sometimes associations or organizations who have a representative are given more time than individual speakers, but we have the same time allotted, 3 minutes for an individual speaker and a speaker from the association.
Okay,
And I think that's fine, but it is,
let me find where you're,
Sure.
where you're referencing.
Page 3.
yeah, under citizen comments, the fourth paragraph, where
Mhm.
associations of organizations may select a spokesperson to present their comments at the discretion of the chair. Spokesman may be allowed a set time more than 3 minutes. And so it's, expected it would be 3, but at the chair's discretion could be more than 3 minutes. Other than that, I find our bylaws in very good order. I'm not sure when they were last amended, but I don't see, again, unless there are statutory reasons, I don't see any reason to amend them as an order of business for the operations of the committee.
I think this is the first time we haven't amended them in the last couple of years. We've
Well,
been going
it
through
says 2020,
small, but yeah.
so 3 years.
Oh, is that it? Oh, because we haven't
Um,
met that often, maybe. That's probably why I got
But going back to 4.3, just so I understand the
Sure.
point, I'm sorry, and the point is that,
The standard expectation is that the association representatives would have 3 minutes.
where does it say that?
Well, it doesn't say. It says at the sole discretion of the chair, they may have more than 3 minutes. So it's implied, I believe, that they would have 3 minutes.
A speaker's time is limited to 3 minutes. It's in the third paragraph in 4.3.
But
if
then
you're-
the next paragraph says neighborhood associations and any other organizations may select a spokesman at this, a neighborhood spokesman may be allowed a set amount of time more than 3 minutes.
Right. So I think the
Presumably
implication
because
is,
they're representing
Right.
more than themselves, talking for many people.
So like at the board of supervisors and at the planning commission, it's kind of complicated, but we have up to 4 speakers come up, state their name and address, and cede their time to a speaker, and a speaker can have up to 10 minutes if 4 people do that. So it's like 2 times 5 is 10. So this is just making it a little less complicated, but if they're speaking on behalf of a neighborhood, maybe you would say, okay, you can have 5 minutes, or
without,
whoever the chair is.
yeah, so without getting into the logistics
Yeah.
of how it would work, I like the fact that, to me, it seems to imply that they have the same amount of time to speak as anybody else, unless there's a reason to do so. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it might be, but there's no calculus that has to go into it of seating time or limiting
No.
them to 5 minutes. It's just as appropriate.
Right.
So,
And even the
little bit
3
more.
minutes, it says can be adjusted, so it's
Right.
all at the discretion
That's right.
of the chair.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but I want to start with that because it
Okay.
also talks about the responsibilities of the different positions
Mhm.
before we elect officers. I will say that this committee meets as needed. Staff does a fantastic job of getting things through the design enhancement process, if we can call it that, through the review criteria, making sure that designs are enhanced as they come into the review districts and neighborhood districts. So we don't have a lot of business of thorny things to have to address where there's either a dispute or criteria may be unclear. So the position of leading this committee is fairly light until, of course, it does get complicated and thorny. And then
It's complicated.
and then it is complicated.
Until it's not.
So I have served in this role for all of one annum, all of 1 year, and we've had one meeting to dispose business during my chairmanship. So it's been a very kind of a simple duty in the 12 months. So I would be certainly open to having additional leadership. I know Mr. Dandridge has watched some of the proceedings at other meetings in addition to the one that I was the chair at. So I would certainly say that I'm open for discussion for a change of chair, vice chair positions. And then certainly the call I know is out, we're saying, for the additional alternate.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. Are there any other questions or questions for clarification on the minutes? I had a chance to examine those.
Yeah, we good.
So we move to the minutes now? Did you just, sorry, I'm just clarifying.
The minutes are last, my suggestion was, we did not do this real formally, but my suggestion was that C1, review and design review committee bylaws proceed the election of officers. And the point was to allow some discussion of
Mhm.
responsibilities before we have elections.
Gotcha. I know, but then you went to D, right?
No, I didn't say anything about minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you just did?
You did.
It's okay though.
Yeah,
I think you
Yeah,
meant
you're
say
right.
any more discussion on bylaws, but you
Okay.
said
Yeah.
minutes. So we just
Oh,
wanted to make
sorry.
sure we were going the right direction.
Be honest.
My fault, thank you.
It's okay. No problem. So election of officers is where we want to head
So I
to.
would propose we go to election of officers.
Okay.
Are there any motions from the floor for nominations, and per bylaw specify the order of nomination?
Typically do chair, and then vice chair.
So you could be chairman again, right? One more year.
Yes, one more
if you
year.
want to. But you wanted your Dandridge to do it?
I would offer it up to Mr. Dandridge if he is willing to serve.
With your support, I do it.
Okay, very good. I will not make a nomination from the floor, so would you like to make a nomination for chair?
I'll nominate Mr. Dandridge to be chair.
Very good, I support that. All in favor, say aye.
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 You can vote.
I go aye.
Yeah.
Nay.
It's a
All right, unopposed.
Sounds good.
Goes into effect immediately?
It
Yes?
does, yes.
So you would ask now if there's any nominations for the vice chair?
All right, that's what I said, with your support. So, are there any nominations for the, do I have to hit this every time?
No, no.
To pop the authority, this is what I want.
Pound your chicken.
Only when you need it, Mr. Chair.
All right. So, are there any nominations for the vice chair?
Do you want to be vice chair?
Serve vice chair.
I'll nominate you as vice chair.
Very good.
I'll second that. Can I do?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes for Mr. Gillespie to be the vice chair.
That was hard.
Congratulations.
It is sometimes a little painful going through that. Because we only do it once a year, so you never.
Yeah.
And that's it, correct? As far as, yes.
Well, I think we're at,
On to review.
are we
You're on
on?
your C2 item.
Okay.
And I think this is, Mr. Cash has put together a,
Yeah, quick, I know that the chair needs to lean.
do you want to do
I don't know
the,
if you want to do
the
your.
vote in the
Yeah, I
minutes? Just
didn't know, I
to
was
get that.
wondering, I apologize.
But that's okay.
I have
No, we
a
knew about it.
reception with my wife at collegiate trustee.
Very good.
She got a new position there, so,
Congratulations.
yeah, got to go mingle. So,
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to maybe address the minutes, that would then close out the voting business. And then we can move on to the fluffy stuff from Mr. Cash.
so do I just go through the approval of the minutes?
Yeah, just say, has everyone had a chance to review and if there's a motion?
Well, I don't know that our minutes, do our bylaws say that.
What's that?
On approval of minutes, that you have to be in attendance.
You don't have to be, you can trust in the secretary
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
express your vote. You could have watched the meeting online afterwards, so
Okay.
you don't have to abstain if you were not here for the minutes. In fact, that would only leave one of you to vote, so it's good that that's not true.
Yeah, no, but I was thinking about, like, I was not completely comfortable moving to approve them because
Right.
I don't know.
If you're uncomfortable, you can abstain,
I
but
don't
you
mind,
don't
I
have
don't
to
mind
as a
voting
matter.
if somebody else says they're okay.
I attended, I had no further comment on the minutes. Thank you to staff for preparing minutes that are easy to follow and good summary of the actions that were taken. So I move to approve the minutes as drafted.
That's it.
Very good.
All in favor?
That's me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right.
You're on, Ray.
Yeah, as we have a new active member and a new member stepping up, I quickly put a couple things together to go through tonight. And really it's to talk a little bit about what you would do as a design review committee. And first off, as Josh mentioned at the beginning, you meet when we need you to meet, or when we beg, please hunt you down to meet. It's not very often, thankfully, with our process. Part of what you can do as a design review committee, you also serves a little bit as an advisory committee as well in some portions. You have a certain portion of the ordinance, Article 27, entrance corridor and village center overlay districts that you administer. Your meetings do have to comply with Virginia Freedom of Information Act, so we have to serve notice of when you're meeting, take minutes. What you're doing as a committee is you're administering the certificate approval process, which most often you'll hear me say COA, COA, COA. And you can also, over from time to time, make recommendations towards additional standards or other type of modifications to the overlay district.
And that would go to the board for approval,
Right,
correct?
the board for approval, and then staff would modify to seek modifications to the ordinance. You can also be advisory in certain situations regarding certain applications that come about within the overlay districts. You also, as part of, you don't just say yay or nay, you can also seek deviations to the standards if someone requests them. You could also impose conditions where they seek modifications to the applications. So part of the process, anybody wants a new building permit, sign or anything like that that's in one of the overlays, they have to come before us with a certificate of approval application. They submit it to our office. Typically what we get is architectural elevations, site plan of the improvements, design of materials that they're using, could be colors, lighting plans in certain circumstances, but very often landscaping plans will also do. And all of these are things that are required by the different overlays, the different design standards. Typically, we approve most often administratively. We have about 10 days to do that. If they seek a modification to the standards or we can't approve them, they can basically request to come before you, and that's basically similar to an appeal process. Exemptions, these are mostly for, keep in mind, it's generally for commercial type of property. Not single family. Usually it's, if they're doing minor modifications or repair or upkeep, that's not a modification that comes back before you, like they're refacing a sign. So there's certain elements, and this is all wording up here, but it's basically, you have to meet the design standards that are within the overlay. And when you make your decision, that's what you're judging it upon. You have to make sure that when you evaluate something, does the project as the whole or the combination of what they're doing conform to the architectural principles that are outlined inside the overlay? And is it applicable to the corridor overlay district? Other things, like the language at the very bottom is the one is, well, by the way they're doing the architecture or what they're doing there, does that itself become a commercial display? Does it sort of function as a sign? And that could be by the shape of the building. They want to deviate from what our architectural standards are, and they want to shape their building in a fashion that really that becomes their signature of what they are. And some franchises do that. The other thing is we have to make sure the materials that are well made, they're not going to deteriorate rapidly. Doesn't have a detriment upon the overall corridor and what the design corridor is supposed to accomplish for the area. So whatever we do here, just like staff, if they appeal Jamie and I's decision on a certificate of approval, it comes to you. If you make a decision and someone's agreed by it, it would actually go to the board of supervisors. There's another process that any type of decision a board makes, there's potential for appeal to the circuit court. I won't go into the person aggrieved type of thing, and if you have a question about who's eligible for a certain application or stuff, then that's something that we and the attorneys will develop as determine if the person has the right of appeal. So what are they? Design overlays that you're here for. We have two different kinds, the entrance corridor and what we call the village center. And what they do is they supplement the existing zoning ordinance with an overlay, something that adds additional standards or additional considerations for the property. They relate to design, not to use. So really, when you're evaluating an application, you're not really thinking about what the use is, you're thinking about how does it fit, what does it meet our design standards like. The zoning district sort of takes care of the use. There will be conflicts between our base zoning ordinance and what the overlay requires. Whichever way it goes, the most restrictive provision applies. So for example, I just gave you the B1 district. If you think in the Centerville area, a parking setback could go down to 5 feet. The overlay has a 35-foot buffer, which says exclusive of parking. Parking has to be outside that setback. So the more restrictive requirement for an application in Broad Street overlay, Broad Street Road, would be a 35-foot setback versus a 5-foot setback. And staff, if there's a question about that, staff would guide you through it. And typically we deal with that at the plan development process. So quickly, the overlays themselves. This is sort of the one that I was confused when I first got here. But if you see the red, that's the River Road overlay. And it really goes from the Henrico County line to the intersection with Route 6 at Patterson Avenue. And then there's an overlay that also goes from Henrico County line all the way meandering through the county along Route 6 until basically you reach the border of the Courthouse Village overlay, which is Maidens Road. And that has certain architectural standards that really apply to the appearance along the road, some additional setbacks and the like. And then the next one, here we go. The others are what we call the Village Center Design Overlays. So Courthouse Village, if you notice, it's really the primary roads through the village. So it goes, Fairgrounds, Route 6, Sandy Hook. Along those, there's design standards overlay. A lot of that relates to architecture, different types of design elements. Oilville also is a design overlay, and that's mainly along Broad Street Road and of course up Oilville Road. That as well has similar design standards regarding architecture setbacks. This is an area that has been zoned commercial for a long time, but you may not have a development there. We've had a case last year that came forward, was an Oilville overlay design standards modification came before the committee. And then the other is the Centerville area. It's also referred to in the ordinance as the Broad Street Route 250 overlay. And this one is something that is currently under review. The area itself is currently under a special area plan evaluation. Lots of design standards in Centerville. It may be, or it could be likely that we may be amending those standards over the next year.
For courthouses.
For courthouse as well. And most often the applications you're going to see come forward would likely be within Centerville. Because these are, especially courthouse and Centerville are really prime growth areas. We do have some applications recently in Oilville as well that we've been able to handle. There's also some zoning cases pending in that area. So really the quick run through is just to give you here's where we are. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about overlays that are coming forward or?
Yeah, I mean, kind of just to summarize what he just said is that, in the past, pretty much any application that came in one of these overlay districts used to come to the committee, and it was a lot. And so we amended the ordinance, before I got here, so 5 years ago or so, to allow staff to do an administrative review, and then whatever.
See, I'm sorry.
Whatever we didn't meet the exact ordinance would come to you all. So that's how it is right now. We are in the process of going through 2 area plans that would be impacted potentially. So I guess that's to come.
Right. And so that's something also to keep in mind as the committee. You're also, if you would like, you're free like other citizens, but it's also part of your role as the design review committee. Some of these design standards, should they be modified to evaluate along the way in. This has been a long process for the county as far as these 2 small area plans. We're expecting updated final
They
drafts
dropped
to be coming
today,
to the public shortly.
but we're going to put them out, I believe, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I think it's when we're
Yeah.
planning on putting them out to the public. So I need to make sure that I have your email added to our email list. I know Mr. Gillespie already is, just so that you can get copies of.
Yeah, I saw that there are going to be some more meetings with presenting those to the
Absolutely.
public.
So
I
we
sat
have
in
one.
on the Zoom meetings
Oh,
for
great.
the other ones.
Excellent.
So was it May 15th and May 18th? When was it? When we're having the community meetings. I believe.
You talk, I'll look on the calendar, just
So,
so I'm sure.
Right, and I think
I
it's
cannot,
the May 15th, I believe, is Centerville. And
Centerville is
May 18th
first.
May 18th is Courthouse, right on Road. I mean, Courthouse, I keep saying Courthouse Road, Courthouse Village.
You know what I mean.
I know how to get her every day, so that helps.
I don't, depending on where.
So again, we hope for public participation, and of course, Joy, that you be there if you like, and if you have any questions once the plans drop, you'll let us know. And then, of course, once your job and my job, our jobs after that is the implementation of the plans and to make them to work and basically the enforcement of whatever vision that comes out of those plans. So it's a busy time coming up in the next few months. As far as once these plans get into action, we anticipate there to be lots of results.
so Tuesday, the 16th is the first community meeting update for the plans. That is at 6 o'clock, and that's going to be in the Notch at the Residence Inn at 6 o'clock. And then on Thursday, the meeting will be here at 6 o'clock, and that is for the courthouse, small area plan. And then there are some public hearing dates coming up as well. I think it's the next week, and I'll make sure that I have those.
It's 22nd and 25th. or-
22nd, 24th. for the
Man, I
planning
get the
commission.
dates off
And
already.
I don't know the board dates, but.
Yeah, 22nd and 24th. Inverse, I think courthouse will be first.
And,
Mm.
yes. I don't have that handy, so forgive me.
So it'll be Tuesday and Thursday.
So it, on June 15th, is the board courthouse meeting. Oh, no, that's the Centerville meeting. All right, so let me read that. So Monday, the 12th, it will be the courthouse public hearing at the Board of Supervisors, and that's of June. And then for the Centerville small area plan public hearing is on Wednesday, the 14th of June. Want to make sure I got that right for the I can email you. I won't email everybody else.
Yeah,
It's fine.
please check online. I'm sure we've twisted the dates around and confused everybody.
Excuse me.
But we'll start advertising the plans this Wednesday.
Yeah, so there'll be plenty of publicity too.
But Ray and Jamie, I haven't thought this through, but just amending the plans, does it change any of the district boundaries for the design overlay, but it might create a change for the future?
Yeah, that's
thing?
I just
Okay.
wrote that down.
Okay.
As we were
Yeah.
seeing the map, I was like, okay, there might be
Right.
some
In
ordinance
itself, the
amendments.
plan won't change the design overlays, but we anticipate, once they're adopted, one of the
We'll
implementation
have to
steps would be to reassess.
And it might be like the boundaries might,
Mhm.
the edges might be different.
Boundaries could change, design standards could change, and the like.
Yep.
So, that's why
Thanks, Cal.
we anticipate work over the next year, so you may be part of a whole new overlay system or designs or whatever as we bring it forward. So, exciting times.
Do you have any questions for us? I'm sure you're like, I just realized you probably don't have a hard copy of the ordinance, Article 27. I'll
Correct.
supply
Yeah,
that.
that would be
I'll
great.
get that for you.
Yeah.
And,
Jamie will give you a full briefing too.
Yeah.
She'll get right on this.
Right.
Yeah, and-
Yeah, if you have any questions for us as we start into it, we'd be glad to meet with you
Yeah.
and go over it.
pick up the phone anytime. You can just call and ask about pretty much anything planning related.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Is that all you have, sir?
That was it for me. It was just a quick rundown, and I think we've taken care of all our business.
Yep.
I guess you're as the vice chair, I guess you
You've
take
taken
care of
over
the
as
meeting?
chair.
That's the chair. Yes. Thank you,
It was
Mr.
a short,
Thanks for-
short
thanks for stepping
vacation.
in. On short notice there.
Are there any pending applications for review, or are there issues we should be aware of?
There may be something coming.
I anticipate there is probably two we have for bringing forward in the near future. We're working out logistics and getting the final application. There'll be one of those things that's sort of hand in hand with those zoning applications.
Yeah.
Pursuing. So I think I anticipate
I can only think of one, so Ray's being very secretive.
I
so
have
that's
enough,
okay.
yeah, I have enough, actually, there's potential for 3, but we're trying to work out things so it
Yeah,
doesn't have to
we
get
do
to
our best to guide and give advice to the applicants as far as like what the standards are. And then they make those decisions as to whether or not they want to come to. We don't force their hand by any means, but there is, it's important. So we try and steer them towards the ordinance.
So a comment, not even really a suggestion, but a comment, if there are likely 2 or 3 items for business in the next 3 months, I would suggest that summer is a difficult time for
Just
scheduling.
schedule some meetings.
And to the
Dates.
extent we can pre-schedule
great idea.
some time.
Yeah,
Good call, Josh.
like some hold
Acting
dates,
chairman.
hold
Hold
dates.
dates,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Which
Yep.
we usually try to do on Mondays, right? But, you know, if that date is just like really bad for someone,
Yeah, we
Let
can
Ashley
switch it up.
go. and she won't start with Monday, but that's
Traditionally.
what we usually try to do is a Monday around 5:30, so.
And that's generally good. And so I should have said, in my day job, I work for another county. I work for Louisa County next door.
What do you do?
I do. And we have board meetings on Monday nights.
Oh, okay, that's
Okay.
good to know.
Twice a month, although we take off a month in July.
Twice a month?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's unfortunate. He's the, is it community development, or what do you all call your
Community
department? Yeah, so some places just call it planning, even though it's really community development, so.
So those would be issues for me, except for July, where we are taking a month off. So
Are they the first Monday, third Monday, what is
first,
your
it's first and third.
first and third?
We just avoid those. Mondays is usually pretty good for me.
I mean, so other than that, Mondays are generally good.
Mhm.
But
It's
those
a
are-
pretty big one,
Yeah,
yeah.
that it could be, yes, I'm saying,
Okay, great.
yeah. So slow day. No, I appreciate that. Sure. We probably, might want to go ahead and work on that this week.
Yep,
Some
you will.
placeholders.
And I would say also to the extent where if it looks like something's coming up and something
Think
that's
ahead of time.
following, we can try to put those on the same
Yeah,
evening. It's
exactly.
probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what we're gonna try to do. So didn't want to rush things for this meeting. We're trying to work.
And they would have to have their CUP or rezoning first, right, before they would come here, or no?
Potentially you could, since they're a separate
Oh, or they,
determination.
usually they do that, right?
It's
They'll-
typical.
Yeah, typically
that-
they get approved and then they come forward. This one is somewhat unique, that there are other ordinance requirements that are impending.
Is it on the
Partially the
June
floodplain.
planning commission meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so it probably wouldn't be sooner than July.
At this
or
point,
August.
it would probably, well, yeah,
If they need a CUP or
Right, but I-
rezoning that's not currently on the schedule, then the soonest.
We have heard,
Okay.
heard COAs prior to
Okay,
approval.
okay,
So
so
that
it
that
could
is,
be.
I think, the approach the applicant is wanting to take. So we're
Okay.
still kind of digesting all of
because it really
that.
affects the design and ultimately it affects the application.
Yeah.
How much time do we have for consideration under our local code? If we were to defer, because I will tell you, that will be a subject of some discussion, taking an action before.
And we have talked about that. Does that put a heavy hand on the board then to like
If it addresses
approve? Because,
context.
we've already gone through this approval process, but
So, right, I think if
we've
maybe
talked.
that would be a conversation that we would have
Yeah, I don't know.
with
I
the
don't
committee
think it
explaining things, how
gives us
that
a time
works.
limit.
Yeah, it's a little unique, and as my background, so we're looking, we're trying to work logistics out, making sure it's done properly and make sure the timing works.
I mean, they could get a building permit before they received zoning approval, so why aren't they gonna get a certificate of approval before zoning approval? Would be, I think, a fairly debatable conversation.
Yes, it is. It's a English and English.
Yeah, this
Sure
is a
works.
tough one because they both, like one's dependent on the other.
Right.
So. the way
Yeah, there
that the
isn't a
site
time
is-
limit here. It does have our traditional, if there's a tie vote and no other motion, it gets carried over to the next meeting. So we try not to have a tie vote with 3 people, but if someone had a conflict, but that's why we have alternates. If someone has to conflict out, then you can call one of the alternates up, so hopefully that would prevent that situation, so. I don't recall ever having a tie or a deferral, so we usually get a decision, not
Not
to
in
say you
this board.
couldn't, but
Not on this commission.
probably would go to something reasonable then.
Okay, we'll watch for that. I mean, obviously, again, there's some
Mhm.
expectations and some protocol, and it may not be appropriate for us to act.
Yeah, I'll put that on my research list.
Yeah.
Time limit.
We're still working on
Okay.
And we both agree that we don't know the answer. It's not like one of us believes one way, one of us believes the other. We're both navigating
Well,
through
good.
this
Well, hopefully we're not
ourselves.
gonna be
that.
able to
It's,
say
it's
it.
evaluation, and it's circumstantial as to
Yeah.
how it is, are they already committed? So, there's other things involved, but again, we'll keep it under wraps until it's actually ready to emerge and explain, and we'll have the answer, of course, when that comes forward.
Okay. I'll just-
I
We
won't
can't
have
tell you
that.
it's in an overlay district.
We can't, that's all. Then we'll let it out of the bag, but yeah. Thanks, back.
Okay, well, we'll just stay posted.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Is there any other business for the committee that you want to bring up?
No.
Okay, pretty good. I have no other business. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Want me to move it?
Yes?
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. So moved.
I almost voted.
All right.